Good morning, Judy Liming here. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning, and as promised, we are continuing with Chapter 3 of October's Sun, The Beauty of a Butterfly is Beyond Measure. And again, I want to dedicate this chapter to all of you, every one of you out there who listen to this and are continuing on this journey with Shiloh and his 6 friends. I just want you to know that you have an eternal beauty that is beyond measure. And before we get started, I want to read a poem. This was one of the poems that we were given a grief share little manual at the end of our sessions, and it was all the poems we had written. Next session, I will read another poem from me about Shannon, but today I want to read this little poem, and it's for all parents. I also want to dedicate this particular reading to Tristan. Tanya called, or she didn't call, she sent a text, and she was talking about Tristan enjoying the reading of October's Sun. And Tristan, I just want you to know how greatly you are loved. And I know you loved your granny beyond measure, and your granny loved you beyond measure. And now you walk in that great, great love that will always carry you on your journey. And may your love just continue. And your beauty is beyond measure, Tristan, and so is your mama. I love you both. Just a special little time to dedicate this to you. I'm going to read this poem now. In the grief share, a little gift that we were given, and it's called For All Parents. I'll lend you for a little while a child of mine, he said, for you to love while he lives and mourn when he is dead. It may be 6 or 7 years or 42 or 3, but will you, till I call him back, take care of him for me? He'll bring his charms to gladden you, and shall his stay be brief? You'll have his lovely memories to solace for your grief. I cannot promise he will stay, as all from earth return, but there are lessons taught down here I want this child to learn. I've looked the wide world over in my search for teachers true. Now will you give him all your love, nor think the labor vain, nor hate me when I come to call to take him back again? I fancied that I heard them say, Dear Lord, thy will be done. For all the joy thy child shall bring, the risk of grief will run. We'll shelter him with tenderness, we'll have him while we may, for all the happiness we've known, we'll ever grateful stay. But shall the angels call for him much sooner than we planned, we'll brave the bitter grief that comes and try to understand. Now this is anonymous. There's no one has signed their name to this poem, and it is for all parents. I know there have been many parents, even since Shannon transitioned over into his eternal home, graduated to heaven, whatever people like to say. I really like to think that he was just embraced into the heart of Jesus, that Jesus' arms were just there open wide and said, okay, son, you're hurting and you've heard enough. So just come to me and know your peace and your presence. So I'm going to continue now. And Tristan, as your mama and you listen to this, this is chapter 3. And it is the day of the worm and the raccoon. We get to experience a little more of the 6 and their personalities this particular chapter in this particular reading. So it is the day of the worm and the raccoon. I'm just going to read a little bit from the last chapter and just go right on in from chapter 3, or chapter 2 to chapter 3. It says, this is talking about the raccoons and their journey on the road to Emmaus. And they're on their journey to the walled city of Jerusalem. And so this is the very last sentence. And it says, they know to stay clear and out of sight, to stay hidden behind trees, to stay hidden behind the rocks. And they know well the secret places of refuge, forged by their ancestors. And so it begins. Okay, now the 6 had fallen asleep from the dizzying discussion that swirled around them in the pomegranate grove, and they had been unaware of the progression of the grueling journey that was unfolding under them. The raccoons, as in their nature, bed down during the hot day, and they were now traveling under the protection of night, and the night had grown cool. Now Ralph, Buck, T-Roy, Rosie Crystal, Jaime, and Kevlar look around at each other, and they realize that they have grown. They have grown in roundness, and they also realize how very hungry they have become. Now, fortunate for them, the raccoon tribe had been traveling through a grove of many trees, and many leaves had fallen and were resting in Shiloh's fur. Oh, yay! What wonderful provision, they think. Now the leaves made a tasty treat, and their sacks were soon filled with the goodness of the greens. With bellies full, they stretch out to their longest, and they are amazed at their form. Now boisterous Buck was making everyone laugh with his antics of stretching, curling, tying himself in a knot, and laughing so hard and loudly at himself that he rolled from his safe place and tumbled, and with a final loud thud, Buck landed on planet Earth. Shiloh, feeling the increased activity and hearing the hilarious sound of worm laughter, had stopped in his tracks so suddenly that each of the 5 had to follow Buck's example, and each landed with their own thud, 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 and thus began the new experience of Worm meeting Earth. Now Shiloh was now introduced to the party he had been host to since his journey through the wild cherry trees. Rosie Crystal, being fearless and female, began the introductions in her sweet as honey, "You just gotta love me" Southern belle drawl. Now this here is little old Buck. He is the one with the big charm, the big heart, the big smile, and the big laughter that you heard. It's his big laughter that landed us here in your little old world. Now, this here is his twin brother, Ralph, who is our strong, silent one. He keeps us grounded. Now that one over there, testing out his muscles and raising the front of his body off the ground, now that is T-Roy. Now this one you see rolling over and over and over, now that is Jaime. He's testing out all his little old muscles all at once. Now over there, that one is Kevlar. He is stretching and stretching and stretching. He is trying to figure out and measure this new world. Then this here is little old me. I'm Rosie Crystal at your service, and I am here to sing you songs that will gladden your heart and bring peace to your soul. Now it was Shiloh's time to stare in wide-eyed wonder at the slightly hairy, wriggly, wiggly, greenish-gray creatures that called themselves caterpillars, not worms. Shiloh stuttered and stammered and finally introduced himself. And he encountered each one personally by touching raccoon nose to caterpillar nose. Now, raccoons are known for eating worms. However, these hairy caterpillars seem to be off limits and off the menu for Shiloh. Since he had carried them this far, he felt kind of responsible for them and their safety. And oh, by the way, they seemed to be good traveling companions, and he could use the company. Since introductions had already been exchanged, he felt he had known them a long time. Their newfound friendship proved to be the very thing they all needed on their journey along this well-paved path that would carry them inside the walls of Jerusalem, and they would find themselves in the great crowd. And this great crowd would push them ever forward to a rocky mount. And so it continues. Okay, that's it for chapter 3. And in a day or two, or maybe a week, I will read chapter 4. It'll probably be sooner as I'm trying to keep it a little more timely. I want to thank you for this journey with Shiloh the raccoon, with Buck, Ralph, Rosie Crystal, Jaime, and Kevlar. As these 7 continue on their journey to the walled city of Jerusalem, they will encounter many amazing in the world of the two-legged. Okay, we will journey on with chapter 4 in a few days. Thank you. Each of you be blessed.